The old wooden floor creaked under her slow steps as she entered the dojo. The walls were covered in old posters, framed pictures of fighters, and banners in Japanese with bold red and black lettering. Most of the students had already gathered. They were teenagers, strong, lean, and full of loud confidence. They laughed, they stretched, they punched the air like they were preparing for battle. And then she walked in. A small, wrinkled woman, in a faded white GI that hung loose on her shoulders. Her gray hair was tied in a neat bun. Her glasses rested at the tip of her nose. She carried no gym bag, no water bottle, only a folded belt in one hand. The room fell silent for a moment, and then came the laughter. Yo, did someone's grandma take a wrong turn from the knitting club? Nah man, maybe she thinks this is yoga class. Should someone call her a taxi before she breaks a hip? Even the coach raised his eyebrows, unsure what to say. He took a step forward, his clipboard still in his hand, and tried to smile politely. Ma'am, this is a martial arts dojo. Are you here to watch someone? She smiled gently and shook her head. No, I'm here to train. A boy in the baka, tall one with slick hair and a loud mouth, burst out laughing. Train? In that GI, her eyes shifted toward him for a second. She said nothing. The coach hesitated. This class is for beginners. Mostly kids and teens starting out. I know, she said. I'd like to start at the beginning. There was something about the way she said it. Calm, firm, like she meant every word. The coach scratched his head. He didn't want to seem rude. All right, you're welcome to try. She bowed slowly. Thank you. She made her way to the back corner of the room and quietly tied her belt. It wasn't black. It wasn't even blue. It was white. The sign of a beginner. But as she tightened the knot, there was something in her hands, steady, practiced, almost elegant. One of the girls near her whispered, "She's so slow. How is she going to even move?" The warm-up began. Push-ups, squats, sit-ups. She did each one. Not fast, not strong, but she didn't skip a single rep. Some of the younger kids started glancing at her with respect, not mockery. Then came technique drills. The coach paired everyone up. She stood alone at the side. Before the coach could walk over, the tall boy stepped forward. I'll spar with her, he said, smirking. Gotta protect the old folks, right? The coach hesitated. Deshaun, this isn't a joke. It's not, he said. We'll go light. The class formed a loose circle as the coach nodded reluctantly. All right, just demonstration speed. Light contact. No ego. Deshaun stepped onto the mat with a confident grin. She followed, slow but balanced. They bowed to each other. Then she raised her hands. Ready? He asked. She nodded once. He stepped forward, light on his feet. She stood still. He faked a jab, just to test her. She didn't move. Then he reached out, pretending to go for a grip. The next moment happened so fast that no one understood it. She turned slightly, caught his wrist, shifted her hips in with a single fluid motion, lifted him off the ground. He landed with a heavy thud, flat on his back. Air burst from his lungs. His eyes widened in shock. No one said a word. The room froze. She stepped back and waited. Deshaun blinked. He slowly sat up, rubbing his shoulder. The coach stepped in quickly. That's enough. Good demo. But the silence didn't fade. Something had changed. The students no longer looked at her like a joke. Their eyes were wide, confused, a little afraid. Deshaun stood up, his mouth open, then shut, then open again. How did you? She bowed again. Thank you for the match. He didn't reply. She turned and walked back to the corner, calm as before. The coach finally spoke. All right, everyone, let's move on to technique review. Pairs again. The class obeyed, but the energy had shifted. All eyes kept flicking toward her. After the session, the coach approached her quietly. Ma'am, I didn't catch your name. Evelyn, she said. Double quotes, Ms. Evelyn. That move. It wasn't beginner level. She smiled. Just something I learned a long time ago. He paused, then asked, Where did you train? Japan, she replied softly. In 1972, the coach blinked. Have a good day, sir, she said, and bowed politely before heading to the bench, where a young girl sat waiting. Grandma. The girl said excitedly, You were amazing. Evelyn smiled and reached for her shoes. I just stretched a little. No, you tossed him, like ... whoosh. She mimicked the motion with her arms. A few students still looked her way in disbelief as they packed up. One even whispered, she trained in Japan. Later that evening, as Deshaun sat in his room replaying the moment in his head, he searched Judo Japan 1972 out of curiosity. He scrolled, then paused. There she was. Younger, serious face, holding a black belt beside a Japanese master in a traditional dojo. His jaw dropped. The next day, he showed the coach. The coach stared at the screen, stunned. She was real. Deshaun whispered, like, really real. She is real, the coach corrected. Back at the dojo, Evelyn returned with her granddaughter. The girl held her own small GI in her hands. I want to try too, she said nervously. Evelyn gently helped her put it on. The coach approached. Would you be willing to help train the younger ones? He asked. They could learn from you. Evelyn looked at her granddaughter, then at the coach. I came here for her. But if the others are willing to learn, I'll teach them to. Just then, the door opened, and a woman in a suit walked in. She looked round, confused. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Miss Evelyn. The video has gone viral online. I'm from Channel 7 News." The coach and students turned, surprised. Evelyn looked up.com as always. "Video?" she asked. "Yes," the woman said. "You flipping that boy? People are calling you the GI grandma. We'd love to do a feature story." Deshaun looked horrified. Evelyn looked amused. She stood slowly, brushed off her GI and said, "If it helps people learn, I'll consider it." The woman smiled. "Thank you. We'll be in touch." The dojo buzzed with whispers again, but this time, no one was laughing. Everyone was watching her. The girl they had called a joke. Now, the one they all wanted to learn from. But this was just the beginning. Because one person in that crowd wasn't just watching, he was planning something that would change everything. The dojo was no longer the same after that day. Everything had changed. Everyone who had once laughed at the quiet old lady now watched her like she was some kind of legend. And even though she said very little, her actions had made more noise than any voice could. By the next morning, the video had already been shared thousands of times. In it, the short clip showed Deshaun lunging forward Finakaki, then suddenly flying through the air and hitting the mat. The camera had slightly shaken when people gasped. But the throw is clean, sharp, beautiful, almost like watching water move. People on the internet called her names like GI Grandma, the real sensei, and Judo Granny. But for her granddaughter Alicia, she was just Grandma Evelinda, woman who made pancakes on Sundays and read bedtime stories in a soft voice. Alicia had never seen her like this before. Her grandmother had always been calm, sweet, quiet. She never talked about her past. She had never even mentioned she knew martial arts. But now, Alicia couldn't stop looking at her with new eyes. That morning, they sat at the small kitchen table, sunlight pouring through the window. "Alicia's cereal was half eaten, Grandma," she asked softly. "Why didn't you ever tell me you used to do all that?" Evelyn gently stirred her tea. "Because I stopped a long time ago." "But why?" Evelyn looked out the window. Her eyes seemed to go far away, into another time. "There were reasons, painful ones. Things I didn't want to bring into this house," she said quietly. Alicia waited, hoping she would say more. But Evelyn just smiled again, as if that part of her life was folded away like an old letter tucked deep where no one could reach. But that past was starting to come back at the dojo. More parents started signing up their kids. Some only came because of the viral video. Others came because they had heard that some old master was teaching. The coach, Mr. Banks, couldn't keep up with the requests. He finally asked Evelyn, "Would you like to help officially? I can pay you." Evelyn shook her head. "I don't want money, but I'll teach if they're willing to respect the mat." Mr. Banks nodded. "They will." And they did. Even Deshaun, who had once mocked her the loudest, now listened the closest. He stood in the front row during training, bowed with extra care, and didn't crack a single joke. But one day, during warm-ups, a new voice broke the air. "So this is where she hides," said a tall, thin man standing in the doorway. He wore a sharp gray coat, and his shoes were far too clean for a dojo. Evelyn paused mid-move. Her face didn't change, but her hands slowly lowered. The man smiled without warmth, still throwing kids around Evelyn. Mr. Banks stepped forward. "Can I help you, sir?" "I'm not here for you," the man said. "I'm here for her." The room went quiet. "Who is that?" Alicia whispered to Deshaun. "No idea." He whispered back, but he looked serious. Evelyn walked forward slowly, her posture still calm. "What do you want, Marcus?" "You know what I want?" the man said. "You think you can walk back into this world and not face the old debt?" Mr. Banks looked confused. "Debt?" Evelyn sighed. "Not money. History." Marcus stepped closer. "You left something behind in Japan. Something important, and some people haven't forgotten." Evelyn didn't blink. "I left everything behind on purpose." Marcus raised his eyebrow. "Then why are you hearing the mat again?" She didn't answer. He pulled a small envelope from his coat and placed it on the table. "They asked me to give this to you." Then he turned to the class and nodded mockingly. "Enjoy your lessons, kids, but remember legends always come with stories, and not all stories are clean." He walked out without looking back. Evelyn stared at the envelope for a long moment before picking it up and placing it inside her GI without opening it. Training continued, but the students were shaken. They had seen her strong, peaceful, and powerful. But now, for the first time, they saw something else in her eyes. Pain. That night, Alicia found her sitting quietly in the backyard, looking up at the stars. "Grandma," she asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart. Who was that man?" Evelyn didn't answer right away. "He was part of my past. A past I thought I buried." "Are you in danger?" Evelyn shook her head gently. "Not yet, but something is waking up. Something I thought was over." Alicia sat next to her. "You don't have to tell me, but if you ever want to, I'm here." Evelyn put her arm around her. "Thank you, little one. That means more than you know." Meanwhile, back at the dojo, Deshaun sat alone after everyone had left. He stared at the mat, deep in thought. He had been training hard since the day Evelyn flipped him, not because he wanted revenge, but because he felt something he hadn't felt before, respect. But also shame. He had mocked her, he had laughed at her, and she had responded not with anger, but with grace and skill. He felt the weight of that every day. He walked over to Mr. Banks. "Sir," he said, "do you think she'll ever teach me more than the basics?" Mr. Banks looked at him thoughtfully. "She'll teach when she believes you're ready. You have to earn her trust." "How?" "Not with muscles," Mr. Banks said. "With patience. And with humility." Deshawn nodded slowly. The next day, Evelyn returned to class. She was quiet, focused, and didn't mention the man from before. But something had shifted in her presence. She moved with more seriousness. Less of the warm smile, more of the sharp edge she once hid. When the training ended, she called Deshawn over. "Show me your grip," she said. He stepped forward, trying not to tremble. He reached for her sleeve, lightly but confidently. She adjusted his fingers. "You're holding it like a fighter. Try holding it like water." He frowned. "Like water, strong but soft, firm but flowing. Grip it without grabbing. Feel, don't force." He tried again, this time, slower. She nodded. Then, without warning, she twisted her shoulder and he hit the mat again. But this time he laughed. "That was awesome," he said, rubbing his back. She smiled slightly. "You're learning." Alicia clapped from the side. "Grandma, you're like a ninja." "Hardly," she replied, "just old." But that wasn't the truth. Evelyn wasn't just old. She was dangerous, and wise, and full of a past that was slowly cracking open. That night, after Alicia went to sleep, Evelyn finally took the envelope from her bag. Inside was a photograph. It showed a younger Evelyn in a fighting stance, face bruised, belt black, her eyes full of fire. Across from her stood a man with a scar over his eyebrow. Below the photo was a handwritten note. "He's out. He's looking for you." Evelyn stared at the photo for a long time, her fingers trembling slightly. Then she placed the photo back inside and stood up. In the corner of her closet, behind winter coats and old boxers, she pulled out a long wooden case. She hadn't opened it in decades. Inside was her old black belt, still folded, still worn. She ran her hand across the faded letters on the edge. Then slowly, quietly, she tied it around her waist. Evelyn had always believed that some memories should be left buried, but the photo had dug something up, something heavy. That night, she didn't sleep much. She sat in the living room chair, her black belt around her waist again for the first time in over 40 years. The house was quiet. Only the ticking clock and the soft breathing of her granddaughter in the next room filled the silence. She thought of Japan. She thought of her teacher. She thought of the man with the scar. And she thought of what might happen if that man found her again. In the morning, she removed the black belt and folded it carefully. She placed it back inside the wooden box and hid it under her bed. For now, she would remain a teacher, a grandmother, a calm presence in the dojo, but her eyes were sharper now. She watched everything, every movement, every visitor, every new face. And then came the girl. She entered the dojo late that afternoon. She wore a bright red hoodie, ripped jeans, and combat boots. Her hair was tied in a rough ponytail, and she walked like someone who didn't care what anyone thought of her. Mr. Banks greeted her kindly. "You here to sign up for class?" She shrugged. "Maybe. I just want to see what all the fuss is about." "That video of the old lady flipping the boy went viral in my school." Mr. Banks nodded. "That's Ms. Evelyn." The girl looked around. "Where is she?" Right then, Evelyn stepped onto the mat, helping a young boy adjust his stance. She turned and saw the girl, then gave a polite nod. The girl raised an eyebrow. "No way. That's her." Mr. Banks smiled. "You can sit in and watch if you'd like." "Nah," the girl said. "I want to try. You got gear." Minutes later, she stood awkwardly in a borrowed GI, fidgeting with the belt. She didn't know how to tie it. Walked over. "Here, I can help." The girl looked at her. "You, her granddaughter?" "Yep, she really flipped that dude." Alicia smiled. "You'll see." The girl was partnered with a boy around her age. She was strong, fast, and bold, but wild. She moved like she was in a street fight. Not a dojo. Evelyn watched quietly from a distance. After class, Evelyn approached her. "What's your name, dear?" The girl hesitated. "Jada." "You move with fire." "Jada. But fire can burn the wrong person if not guided." Jada narrowed her eyes. "You saying I'm doing it wrong?" Evelyn shook her head. "I'm saying you have potential and pain." Jada looked away. "Whatever." But she came back the next day. And the day after that, she didn't say much. But she trained hard, sometimes too hard. One afternoon, during sparring, Jada accidentally slammed another girl to the mat harder than necessary. The girl cried, holding her shoulder. Evelyn stepped forward quickly. "Enough." Jada backed away, breathing heavy, angry. "I told you to control your strength," Evelyn said firmly. "She was talking about me behind my back." "This is not the place for anger," Evelyn said. "This mat is for learning, not punishment. I don't need a lecture from some old lady." The room went silent. Alicia covered her mouth. Evelyn's eyes narrowed slightly. Not in disappointment. "I am not here to hurt you, Jada," she said quietly. "But if you want to continue, you must learn control." Jada stood still for a long moment. Then she picked up her bag and walked out. The next day she didn't come back. Alicia felt bad. She found Evelyn in the kitchen that night, cutting vegetables. "Do you think Jada's okay?" she asked. "She's a storm," Evelyn said. "Storms come and go, but sometimes they return calmer." Alicia nodded slowly. You saw her pain, didn't you? Evelyn paused. Yes. You always know when someone's hurting. Evelyn looked up. It's easy to see when you felt the same. Meanwhile, Deshaun was still showing up every day, earlier than anyone else. He stayed late too. He practiced his stances, asked questions, and often waited for Evelyn to correct him. He never rushed her. He never demanded, and slowly, Evelyn started giving him more advanced techniques. Use your opponent's weight against them, she told him one day. You don't need to be stronger, just smarter. Like you did to me, he said with a smile. She nodded. Exactly. One evening, as they cleaned up the dojo mats, Deshaun looked at her seriously. Why'd you stop fighting, Miss Evelyn? She paused. Because sometimes, winning comes with a price. What kind of price? She didn't answer right away. Someone I once fought. He lost more than just a match, and I lost something too. Deshaun nodded slowly. He didn't push for more, but the sadness in her voice stayed with him. That night, Evelyn sat on her porch with a cup of tea. The street was quiet, but then, a shadow moved near the end of the sidewalk. She looked up. Jad. I stood there. I'm sorry, Jada said, her voice low. Evelyn didn't move. Why did you come back? I don't know, I guess. I didn't want to leave like that. Evelyn gestured to the step. Sit. Jada walked over and sat down. She looked nervous. Now no anger, just confusion. I saw you in that video, Jada said. It made me feel something. What did it make you feel? Evelyn asked. That I didn't have to be angry all the time to be strong. Evelyn nodded. You don't? Jada looked down. My mom left when I was 10. My dad drinks. I fight a lot. I don't mean to. Evelyn said nothing. She just let her talk. I thought if I could be tough, people would stop messing with me. But it just made everything worse. Evelyn placed her hand gently over Jada's. Strength isn't in the fists, Jada. It's in knowing when not to use them. Jada blinked away tears. Can I come back? Evelyn smiled. Of course. The next day, Jada returned to class. And this time, she moved slower, softer, more focused. The other students welcomed her back without question. Even the girls she had thrown too hard nodded and offered to train with her. The dojo was becoming more than a place to learn. Martial arts, it was becoming a home. But something was coming, and Evelyn could feel it. That afternoon, Mr. Banks received a letter. There was no return address. Inside was a formal invitation, a secret martial arts exhibition held once every 5 years. Underground, elite, not for beginners. He handed it to Evelyn. She read it silently. Her hands were calm, but her breath slowed. They know I'm here, she whispered. Mr. Banks frowned. Who are they? She folded the letter. Old rivals. Old ghosts. Are you going? I may not have a choice. Mr. Banks looked unsure. Is this safe? Evelyn's voice was soft, but firm. It was never about safety. It was about honor and unfinished battles. That night, she sat with Alicia before bed. Do you know what makes a warrior? She asked. Alicia shook her head. Not fighting, not winning, but standing back up after falling, and knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Alicia snuggled under the blanket. Are you scared, Grandma? Evelyn looked at the stars through the window. A little, even you, especially me. Alicia reached out and held her hand. I'll be brave if you are. Evelyn smiled gently. Deal. The next morning, she opened the wooden case again. This time, she didn't hesitate. She tied her black belt around her waist. Firm and proud, she stepped into the dojo. Everyone turned to look. Silence filled the room, and then every single student bowed. Even Deshaun, even Jada, even Mr. Banks. Because, this time, they didn't see an old woman. They saw a warrior. But the fight waiting for her would not be like the ones she had before. Because the man with the scar, the one from the photo, was coming, and he wasn't coming to lose again. The invitation burned in Evelyn's mind like a silent alarm. The name of the tournament was written in faded black ink at the top of the letter, the Iron Circle. Few knew what it meant. Fewer had ever been invited, but Evelyn did. She hadn't spoken of it in decades. It was an underground martial arts event, private, dangerous, unofficial, where old rivalries came alive in front of silent crowds, and where honor wasn't just a word, it was blood. The last time Evelyn had been invited, she was 28 years old, and she had walked away undefeated, but she also walked away with a broken heart, and a scar not on her skin, but on her soul. Now, years later, the Iron Circle had called her again, but this time, she wasn't going alone. At the dojo things felt both normal and tense. Everyone still trained. Everyone still bowed. But there was a question in every glance they gave her. They all knew something had changed. Evelyn wore her black belt, now not hidden in a box, but tied around her waist every day. She didn't explain the letter. She didn't talk about the past, but the students could feel it, especially Deshaun. He had grown fast over the last few weeks. Stronger, wiser, more respectful. But now, his training had taken a new form. Evelyn had pulled him aside one day and asked quietly, "Do you want to learn the real way?" He didn't hesitate. "Yes, ma'am." And so it began. Every morning, before class, Deshaun arrived early. Evelyn taught him quiet footwork, hidden breathing patterns, and movements so subtle they seemed like nothing until he tried them. Then came the balance drills, the counter throws, the defensive breaks. Feli got up. He asked questions. He stayed silent when needed, and slowly, Evelyn began to trust him. One day, she finally said it. There may come a day when I can't stand between you and danger, so I need you to be ready to protect the people I care about. Deshaun looked stunned. You trust me that much? She nodded. You've earned it. Alicia was watching everything too. She still trained with the beginners, but she had started picking things up faster. Her movements had more focus, more heart, and one evening, after class, she came to Evelyn quietly. Can I ask you something? Always why? Did you stop fighting back then? I mean, you were amazing. You still are. Evelyn sighed. She looked at the mats, then at her granddaughter's innocent eyes. There was a man, she began. His name was Kenji. We trained together in Japan. We were students of the same master. We were rivals, but we fell in love. Alicia's eyes widened. We trained, we competed, we fought side by side. But one day, at the Iron Circle, we were forced to face each other. You had to fight him. Yes. Who won? I did, Evelyn said, voice quiet. But I lost him. Alicia looked confused. He couldn't handle the loss. His pride, it turned to bitterness. He left Japan. He disappeared. But I kept hearing rumors over the years. What kind of rumors? That he was training again. That he was building his own style. Something darker. Something colder. Alicia swallowed hard. And now he's back. Evelyn didn't answer. But they both knew the truth. Later that week, Jada found Evelyn outside after class. The sky was turning purple as the sun sank low. I've been having nightmares, Jada said suddenly. Evelyn turned slowly. About what? About hurting people, losing control. Evelyn nodded. Your body remembers pain. Sometimes it plays it like a movie while you sleep. I hate it, Jada whispered. Evelyn placed a hand on her shoulder. Then train harder in the day so your body learns peace again. Jada looked up. Why are you so kind to me? Because someone once believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I'm just passing it on. A few days later, Mr. Banks pulled Evelyn aside. There's a man asking to speak with you. Says his name is Ito. Evelyn stiffened. Where is he? In the office. Evelyn walked through the narrow hallway of the dojo and opened the door. Slowly, inside stood an older Japanese man in a dark suit, holding a small briefcase. He bowed deeply. Evelyn-sensei, he said. It has been too long. Evelyn bowed in return. Ito, you came all this way. I am the new messenger for the Iron Circle. Evelyn nodded. And you've come to confirm? Yes, Kenji has returned. He has requested you by name. Evelyn sighed. He doesn't want to fight. He wants revenge. Perhaps, Ito said. But he is not the same man. He is something else now. I can feel it. Ito opened the briefcase and handed her a folded robe deep red, with a golden phoenix stitched into the back. This is your fighter's robe, he said. Should you choose to wear it again? Evelyn took the robe and held it quietly in her hands. I will come, she said, but not alone. Ito's eyes narrowed. Who will you bring? My student, she replied, and my granddaughter. Ito looked surprised, but he nodded. Then may your spirit be strong. That night, Evelyn gathered Deshaun and Ali in the dojo after everyone else had gone home. She lit a small incense stick and let the smell fill the air. Then she told them everything, the truth, the fight, the loss, the challenge that lay ahead. You don't have to come, she said. But if you do, you'll see a world very different from this dojo. I'm coming, Deshaun said immediately. Alicia looked nervous. What if he hurts you? Evelyn smiled gently. Then I will stand back up, or one of you will help me. They nodded. The next few days were filled with private training. Evelyn pushed Deshaun harder than ever before. Every throw, every block, every breath had to be exact. You will not fight Kenji, she told him. But if something else happens, anything unexpected, you must protect the others. Deshaun understood Alicia trained too not for combat, but for courage. Evelyn taught her how to fall, how to breathe through fear, and how to move if the world turned upside down. You don't need to win, Evelyn told her. You only need to survive. Finally, the day came. They boarded a train to the edge of the city, then were picked up by a black car. Ito was waiting. They were driven to an old warehouse near the docks. From outside it looked abandoned, but inside, the Iron Circle was alive. Candles lit the path to the center, rows of chairs formed a ring around a soft mat, and around it stood men and women from all over the world, serious, dressed in robes and uniforms of many styles. When Evelyn stepped in, all eyes turned. The crowd parted, and across the room stood Kenji, older now but still strong. His hair was streaked with silver, his eyes were cold, his scar had deepened. He bowed slightly when he saw her. She bowed back. They said nothing, not yet. Ito stepped forward and raised his hand. The match begins in 1 hour. Evelyn sat with Deshaun and Alicia in a quiet corner. If I fall, she whispered, don't come to me. Protect each other. But Grandma, no, she said firmly. Promise me. They nodded. An hour passed, and then the bell rang. Evelyn stepped forward. Kenji did the same. The Iron Circle was silent. Not one whisper, not one cheer. Only breath. Two old warriors faced each other after decades of silence. And when the match began, he struck first. Fast, sharp, ruthless, but Evelyn had trained for this moment, and she would not fall easily. The first strike nearly took Evelyn off her feet. Kenji's speed was not of an old man. It was precise, like a blade sharpened through decades of obsession. Evelyn stepped back, blocking just in time. The impact vibrated up her arm. She looked into his eyes and saw nothing. No warmth, no memory of the love they once shared, only rage. Kenji moved again. This time, a spinning heel kick aimed for her ribs. Evelyn ducked, swept low, and grabbed his ankle. He fell, but rolled instantly, and jumped back up like a shadow dot around them. The silent audience didn't blink. This was not a show. This was history. This was pain meeting pain. In the corner of the room, Alicia clutched Deshawn's arm. I can't watch, she whispered. You have to, Deshawn said gently. She wants you to see who she really is. Alicia looked through the blur of her tears. She saw her grandmother bleeding from the lip, one eye swelling, but still standing, still calm, still strong. Evelyn wasn't just fighting Kenji. She was fighting every doubt, every whisper, every old man who once laughed at her in a GI. Kenji lunged again. This time he didn't stop. His strikes came fast: chest, neck, hip, leg, shoulder. Evelyn blocked 3, dodged 2, took 1 to the ribs. She gasped. He smiled. You're slower now, he said, voice flat. And you're angrier, she replied. Still can't handle losing, can you? He charged again, this time with a fury that cracked the floorboards beneath them. But Evelyn was ready. She shifted her weight, turned, and used his momentum against him. The throw was clean. Kenji flew across the mat and landed with a loud thud. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evelyn stood still, calm, controlled. But inside, her heart pounded like a drum. He got up slowly, but there was blood now. From his mouth, he wiped it away. Then did something no one expected. He bowed deeply. Everyone watched in silence. Evelyn, stunned, returned the bow. But just as she rose, he rushed her again. A trick. He struck her square in the chest. She stumbled back. His next hit harder cracked across her jaw. The crowd murmured. Alicia gasped. He's not playing fair. Deshawn stood up. He's trying to break her spirit. Ito stepped forward, frowning. This is not honorable. But no one stopped the fight. Evelyn shook her head clear. Blood trickled down her chin. I thought you had changed, she said. Kenji snarled. I did. I stopped loving weakness. You stopped loving yourself. He swung again, but this time, Evelyn caught his wrist, twisted, and with a sudden shift threw him over her shoulder. The ground shook as he hit the mat. Again, Kenji didn't rise this time. He groaned, reached for the edge of the mat. Evelyn stood over him, not with pride, but with sorrow. I never hated you, she said quietly. Even now, I only hoped you'd forgive yourself. He looked up, eyes full of something he hadn't shown in decades: regret. Lost everything, he whispered. But you never did you? I lost you, she replied softly. That was enough. The bell rang. The match was over, but the pain wasn, single quotes, tooed. Not yet. The crowd stood and bowed, one by one. They left, but in the corner, a man with sharp eyes and a darker GI remained seated. He never bowed, never clapped. He just stared at Deshawn, as if measuring something. Deshawn noticed and felt strange, like his spine had turned to ice. Back at the hotel, Evelyn was quiet. She moved slowly, bruised but undefeated. Alicia wrapped her grandmother's hands in soft cloth. You shouldn't have gone that hard. Evelyn smiled. He needed to know I hadn't gone soft. Deshawn sat nearby, silent, thinking. Who was that man watching us? He asked finally. Evelyn looked at him sharply. Describe him. Tall, dark, GI didn't clap, didn't blink. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. I was afraid of this. Afraid of what? Alicia asked. Kenji was never alone. After he left Japan, he formed something darker. A hidden dojo. They call themselves the Black Root. Deshawn frowned. That sounds like a gang. It's worse, Evelyn said. They don't believe in mercy or tradition, only power and revenge. Alicia whispered. Why was he watching Deshawn then? Evelyn looked troubled. Because the Black Root steals talent. They look for fighters with heart, then break them, twist them, use them. They'll see your potential, Deshawn, and they'll want it. I'd never join them. I know, but they won't ask. They'll test you first. The next morning, Evelyn woke up to find a note slipped under their hotel door. No signature, just a black symbol burned into the paper. A root twisted into a spiral, and one sentence: your student fights next. Evelyn gripped the note tightly. Her fingers trembled. Alicia gasped. No, he's not ready. Deshawn stood tall. Yes, I am. Evelyn turned to him. This won't be like anything you've faced. These aren't students. They're shadows. I'm still going, he said firmly. I'll fight to protect us. Evelyn nodded, but her heart was heavy. This was not part of the plan. They returned to the warehouse that evening. It was darker now. Fewer candles, colder air, and a new crowd. This was not the Iron Circle anymore. This was something else. At the center stood a boy, barely older than Deshawn, but his eyes were cold. His arms, covered in strange bruises. Ito whispered. They call him Cage, means shadow. He's their youngest champion. He's not a champion, Evelyn said. He's a prisoner. Deshaun stepped onto the mat. His heart thundered, but his face stayed calm. Cage didn't bow, he just smirked. The fight began. Cage moved like wind, no emotion, no hesitation. He struck fast, aiming to hurt, not just win. Deshaun dodged the first 2 hits, blocked the third, and countered with a side kick. Cage caught it, spun and slammed Deshaun onto the mat. Hard, the wind left his lungs. Alicia stood up. Get up, come on, please. Evelyn didn't speak. She just watched. Every fiber of her body wanted to run in and protect him, but this was his trial now. Deshaun rolled, stood, and remembered Evelyn's words. Use their power against them. Don't fight force with force. Cage came again, to the neck. Deshaun slipped under it and swept his leg. Cage stumbled. The crowd murmured. Deshaun moved a jab, step, elbow. This time Cage didn't smile. He growled, and something changed. His strikes grew wilder, more vicious. He aimed at Deshaun's throat, at his knees, at his spine. Evelyn stepped forward. Enough. This isn't training, it's assassination. But no one stopped it. The black route had no rules. Deshaun took hit after hit, blood from his mouth, arms shaking. But then he remembered something else Evelyn had said. When they try to break you, stay standing. That's how you win. He rose. Cage screamed, rushed, and Deshaun pivoted, stepped, and launched a perfect judo throw. Cage hit the mat and didn't rise. The room fell silent. Deshaun stood above him, breathing hard, but not broken. Evelyn stepped forward. She touched Deshaun's shoulder. You did it. But before they could leave, a voice called from the shadows. Impressive. Let's see if the girl can do the same. Alicia froze. Everyone turned. A taller figure stepped into the light. A woman, robed in black, eyes like glass. I challenge her, she said. Now? Evelyn stepped in front of Alicia. She's not a fighter, but she's yours. The woman hissed. That's enough. Alicia trembled. Grandma, what do I do? Evelyn turned slowly, her voice low but steady. You fight? Alicia stepped onto the mat like her shoes were made of glass. Every breath she took felt too loud. Every eye in the room was on her, but none colder than the woman in black, tall, sharp-featured, wrapped in a GI that looked like it belonged to a crow. The woman smiled slightly. Little flower in a warfield, she said. You don't belong here. Alicia's throat was dry. She had never fought anyone. Not like this. Not under the gaze of shadows. From behind her, Evelyn's voice came strong, steady. You don't need to defeat her, just survive her. Deshaun stepped closer to the mat. You've got this, Alicia. Just remember who your grandma is. The bell rang. The woman didn't move. Neither did Alicia for a heartbeat. The mat felt frozen in time. Then she struck, a blur of black, sharp as a knife. Alicia barely ducked in time. The wind from the woman's hand brushed her hair. Another strike, this time a kick aimed straight for Alicia's head. She rolled under it, stumbled, and nearly fell. The woman didn't chase her. She circled instead. Like a wolf. You're afraid, the woman said calmly. Good fear makes the break easier. In the back of the room, Ito whispered to Evelyn, that's Mako, former champion of the Dark Dojo in Kyoto. She trains spies now. And killers. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Then she shouldn't have touched my granddaughter. Alicia steadied herself. She couldn't strike first. She had no form, no real training. But she had something else. She had watched Evelyn her whole life. Watched her cook with rhythm, walk with balance, move with grace. And she had her heart. When Mako rushed again, Alicia turned, sidestepped, and barely missed another kick. She's too fast, Alicia thought. A palm strike hit her ribs. Pain exploded. Through her side, she gasped, dropped to one knee. The crowd murmured, but Evelyn didn't shout, didn't cry. She just whispered, stand tall. Even if you're shaking, let them see you're not broken. Mako tilted her head. No counter-strike, not even a scratch. Alicia slowly rose to her feet. I'm not trying to prove I'm a fighter, she said. I'm just proving I'm not afraid anymore. Mayako's eyes narrowed. Then prove it. She flew at Alicia again. This time Alicia closed her eyes and trusted her body. She ducked low, swept her leg not to knock Mako over, but to break her rhythm. And it worked. Mako stumbled. Just a little, but enough. Alicia backed away, eyes wide. Mako stood slowly, her mouth twitching. You're clever. I'm my grandmother's girl, Alicia said. That made Mako laugh. A shame, she said. They'll mourn you, then. And with that Mako unleashed. Punch after punch, strike after strike. Alicia blocked some, dodged others. Took one to the shoulder, one to the thigh. Pain bloomed everywhere. But something strange happened. With each strike she survived. Alicia felt something grow inside her. It wasn't rage. It wasn't pride. It was clarity. This fight wasn't about winning. It was about standing in the storm and still breathing. She took another hit right to the cheek. Her head snapped to the side. Blood ran from her mouth, but she didn't fall. Mako stopped, confused. Why don't you fall? Alicia looked at her through swollen eyes. Because people like you already tried to break her, she said, pointing to Evelyn, and she never did. A hush fell across the room. Mayako's face darkened. Then let's see what breaks you. She lunged one final time, but this time Alicia was ready. She stepped in, ducked under Mayako's strike, and used Evelyn's old move, a hip turn and lift. Mayako's weight shifted forward. her balance cracked, and for 1 second, the teacher fell. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't clean. But Mako hit the mat, the room gasped. The bell rang. Mako stood up slowly, her hand touching the back of her head. She didn't look angry, she looked stunned. Alicia backed away, trembling, ran to her side. You did it. You actually did it. Alicia fell into his arms, not because she was weak, because she had nothing left to prove. From the side of the mat, the same man who had watched Deshawn before stepped forward. He clapped once, then again, slow, cold hiss. Voice was low and even. She passed the test. Evelyn stepped between him and the kids. No, she survived it. That's enough. The man gave a thin smile. Your students have fire. Good. He handed Evelyn a folded note. Send them to this address in Kyoto. The final trial awaits. I'm not sending them anywhere, Evelyn said firmly. The man turned to go. Then we'll come to you. And just like that he vanished into the dark. That night, they returned to their hotel. Alicia lay in bed, eyes open. I thought I'd be proud, she whispered, but I just feel tired. You fought with more courage than most men ever learn, Evelyn said, sitting beside her. Pride comes later. For now, rest. In the other room, Deshawn sat on the floor, legs crossed. He held the black note in his hand. Kyoto 1. Last test. But something about it chilled him. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for Alicia, and for Evelyn. Something deeper than fighting was waiting for them in Japan. And somehow he knew it was tied to Evelyn's past. Evelyn stepped outside onto the small hotel balcony. The moon was high. She pulled an old photo from her bag. It showed her decades ago, standing beside Kenji and Ito, smiling, young, unscarred. Behind them was a temple, one she hadn't seen in years. Her fingers trembled. It's coming full circle, she whispered. From behind her, Ito spoke. The temple still stands, but the dojo that lives beneath it, it's changed. They'll come for the kids, won't they? Evelyn asked. Ito nodded. And maybe for you. Evelyn looked out at the city lights. Then, I'll go first. The next morning, Evelyn was gone. No note, no goodbye. Only one thing left behind. Her old black belt, folded on Alicia's pillow, and a train ticket to Kyoto. The train to Kyoto rumbled forward like a quiet storm. Alicia sat by the window, staring at the hills that rolled like waves across the countryside. Deshawn sat next to her, silent, holding Evelyn's black belt tightly in his hands. She was gone. No message, no goodbye. Only her black belt, folded with care. Alicia's voice was soft. She went alone to protect us. Deshawn nodded. But we're not letting her fight alone. Behind them, Ito sat quietly. He was dressed differently. Today his travel clothes replaced with the plain gi of a silent warrior. He hadn't said much since they boarded the train, but his eyes were focused. Sharp. We'll find her, he said. And we'll find the truth she didn't want us to know. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of Kyoto, Evelyn stood at the foot of an ancient temple. The steps before her were cracked with age, but the air was heavy with memory. It had once been home. Now, it felt like a graveyard. A man waited at the top, tall, dressed in ceremonial black robes. Kenji, he looked older, grayer, but his eyes still carried the same fire. You shouldn't have come alone, he said. I didn't want the children to see this place, Evelyn replied. He stepped aside and gestured to the door. They deserve the truth, Evelyn. They deserve to know who you were. I'm not that person anymore. But the dojo is, Kenji said, and it hasn't forgotten you. Back on the train, Alicia turned to Ito. Tell me the truth. About Grandma. About this place. Ito hesitated. Then slowly he spoke. Before you were born, your grandmother wasn't just a fighter. She was one of the best. She trained here, under the old masters of the Kyoto Temple Dojo. What happened? She challenged them, he said. She didn't believe in their cruelty. She believed martial arts should protect, not punish. So they pushed her out. They tried to break her. And when she refused, they exiled her. Deshawn's eyes narrowed. Then why is she going back? Because someone else took over the dojo after she left, Ito said grimly. And that someone is her brother. Alicia froze. My great-uncle. Ito nodded. His name is Tatsu. He was once your grandmother's closest ally. Now he runs the dojo with fists, not Anna. At the temple, Evelyn stood before the old wooden hall. Inside, the floor was lined with students dressed in black chias. They bowed when Tatsu entered. He walked with slow grace like a snake moving through long grass. His voice echoed. Sister, you return not to beg, but to bleed. Evelyn stood tall. I return to remind you what true strength looks like. Tatsu smirked. You brought children into this. You always loved playing mother to the weak. They are not weak, Evelyn said calmly. They are stronger than you think, stronger than fear, stronger than shame. Tatsu's face darkened. You left this temple in disgrace. You will leave again in pieces. That night, Alicia, Deshawn, and Ito arrived at the edge of the forest outside the temple. The air was cool, and the moon hung low. They crouched near the wall, hiding in the shadows. Alicia's heart thumped. Are you sure she's here? She asked. Ito nodded. Look for the crimson banner. That's the inner hall. Suddenly, a faint sound reached them, a scream. Alicia bolted toward the gate. Deshawn grabbed her arm. Wait, we don't know what's inside. I don't care, Alicia shouted. She's my grandmother. She ran. Deshaun swore and followed. Ito stayed back for one moment longer, watching the shadows. I knew it, he whispered, and stepped in. Behind them, inside the hall, Evelyn was kneeling. Tatsu stood before her, holding a long wooden staff, still refusing to bow. He asked. Evelyn met his gaze. You don't deserve it. With a growl, he raised the staff, but before he could strike, stop. The door slammed open. Alicia ran in, eyes blazing. Tatsu turned, startled. A second later, Deshaun entered, fists clenched, and behind them Ito. Evelyn gasped. No, what are you doing here? We're here for you, Alicia said. We're family? And family doesn't run, Tatsu sneered. Children? I should have known you'd turn your students into shields. Deshaun stepped forward. Say one more word, and I'll show you what this shield can do. Tatsu laughed coldly. Then let's see if the joke of the GI can fight for real. Suddenly, the room shifted. 10 students in black GIS surrounded them. Evelyn shouted. No, this isn't a fair fight. Tatsu raised a hand. It never was. The battle began. Deshaun was first to strike. A swift elbow knocked one attacker to the ground. Alicia blocked a kick, then spun low to sweep another student. Ito moved like a shadow, silent, precise, but they were outnumbered. Alicia ducked under a punch, but took a hit to the ribs. Deshaun yelled her name. She turned, and that moment of distraction cost him. A blow hit his back. He dropped to one knee, but Alicia charged in, shoulder first, and knocked the attacker off him. They fought together, back to back, breathless, bleeding, unbroken across the hall. Evelyn watched, tears in her eyes. They weren't just surviving. They were standing for each other, just like she had once stood. Finally, only Tatsu remained. He stepped forward. Facing Alicia, you wear the GI like it means something, he growled. It does, she said. It means I belong. Even if you don't believe it. Tatsu lunged. Alicia ducked and countered, their arms locked. He tried to overpower her, but Evelyn's voice rang out. Shift your hips. Use his weight. Alicia remembered. She turned, used her body like a lever, and Tatsu fell hard. The hall fell silent. Tatsu groaned, trying to rise, but Alicia stood over him. She didn't raise her fist. She raised her voice. I'm not here to beat you. I'm here to show you we're not afraid anymore. Slowly, Evelyn walked forward. She helped her brother up. He looked at her. Something in his eyes changed, softened. You could have killed me, he said. I could have, Evelyn replied, but I wanted to heal you. He looked away. The temple is yours now, he said. I don't want it. Then take back the name, the honor. For them, as the morning light broke over the hills, Evelyn, Alicia, Deshaun, and Ito stood outside the temple gates. They were bruised, tired, changed, but they were together. Alicia looked at the rising sun. What now? Evelyn smiled gently. Now, we teach. But far away, in another city, a screen lit up. A masked figure watched the fight footage recorded without anyone knowing. He leaned forward. So the old lion still roars. And the cubs are growing teeth. He turned to a dark figure behind him. Send the message. If they want peace, they'll have to earn it. The dojo was quiet now. The once cruel banners were gone. The bruises from the battle still ached, but something deeper had healed. Alicia stood in the middle of the training hall, her hands closed tightly around a fresh white GI folded with pride. On the back of the GI, stitched in red, were 3 words. Evelyn's way lives. Evelyn watched from the doorway, her eyes filled with emotion. Ito stood beside her, nodding. She's ready, Evelyn smiled. She's more than ready. She's become what I never dared to dream, a warrior with a heart. Down the hill, helped some younger kids with basic warm-ups. His back still hurt from the fight, but he didn't complain. Every time a kid looked up to him with hope, he saw himself, the boy who once thought he was just a joke. Now he was someone others followed. Ito handed him a wooden staff. You're not just a helper anymore. You're a leader. Deshaun looked at it, unsure. I don't feel ready. None of us ever feel ready, Ito said. Until we stop thinking about ourselves, San. Start thinking about those who need us. Deshaun nodded slowly. He looked at the group of kids. I'm ready. But peace was short-lived that night. Evelyn received a letter. Folded perfectly, delivered by hand, no name, no stamp. The paper felt cold. She opened it slowly, her breath catching at the seal. The Dragon Syndicate. Her past had returned. Alicia and Deshaun were sitting nearby when Evelyn's face changed. Alicia leaned forward. Grandma, what is it? Evelyn stood, clutching the letter. You two need to go pack your bags. Later, inside the dimly lit kitchen, Evelyn opened up. When I was your age, I was part of a secret martial order, trained to defend the innocent. From underground fighters and criminal tournaments, Deshaun's eyes widened. Wait, like real, illegal underground fights? Yes, Evelyn nodded, and one group rose to the top. Ruthless, unstoppable. They called themselves the Dragon Syndicate. I thought they were just a rumor, Alicia whispered. They were, and I helped make sure they stayed a rumor, until now. The letter was a challenge, an invitation, a secret location. 1 week, 1 fight. If you don't come, it said, we'll come to you. Evelyn knew what it meant. They want me back in the ring, she said. but not just to fight, to finish what we started years ago. Ito spoke calmly. If we go there, there's no turning back. Alicia stepped forward. Then we go together. Evelyn stared at her granddaughter. You could be seriously hurt. I'd rather be hurt standing next to you, Alicia said, than be safe while you fight alone. Deshawn nodded. Same here. We're family. And this time, we finish it together. 1 week later, they arrived at an old abandoned warehouse on the edge of Tokyo. Security cameras, masked guards, and silence so loud it made hearts pound. They entered through a back door, marked with a dragon sigil. Inside, the arena was brutal. A steel cage surrounded the center. A crowd of masked spectators sat in silence, as if waiting for blood. A masked announcer stood up. Welcome back, Lioness of Kyoto. Evelyn didn't blink. A door opened, and out stepped the syndicate's champion. A woman, tall, muscular, cold eyes. Her GI was jet black except for the sleeves, soaked in red dye. Evelyn's face froze. Tora. Deshawn leaned closer. You know her? She used to be my friend, Evelyn said softly, until the syndicate turned her into a weapon. The rules were announced, a 3-person match, 1 fighter at a time, no second chances. If Evelyn's team won, they'd walk free. If they lost, they might not walk out at all. Evelyn stepped forward first. The cage door closed behind her. Tora cracked her neck. It's been a long time, she said coldly. Too long, they bowed. Then came the blur. Tora attacked like lightning kicks, like knives. Evelyn blocked most, but took a hard hit to the ribs. She staggered. The crowd leaned in, whispering. Then Evelyn turned, used the ropes, flipped and landed a clean hit across Tora's jaw. The crowd gasped. Evelyn raised her hands. I'm not here to win, she said. I'm here to remind you who we were. Tora growled. You left us to rot. No, Evelyn said softly. I left so we could one day return with honor. Tora faltered, and then dropped to one knee. She wasn't beaten, she surrendered. The announcer froze. Tora stood and raised Evelyn's hand. I fight for the lioness now. The syndicate leader, a masked man in a white robe, stood slowly. You've convinced one, but not all. He motioned to the gate. The next challenger stepped in, a huge man with scars across his face. The bull, whispered Ito. Deshawn took a deep breath. My turn. The cage door shut behind him. The bull charged like a train. Deshawn dodged the first blow barely. The second grazed his shoulder. The third hit him hard in the stomach. He dropped to one knee. Alicia screamed. Evelyn tensed. But Deshawn got up slowly, painfully. He wiped his mouth. Is that all you've got? He shouted. The crowd roared. He remembered Ito's words. Use his weight. So he let the bull charge. Then he stepped aside at the last second. The bull hit the cage wall. Stunned, Deshawn jumped, wrapped his legs around the man's neck, and twisted. The bull collapsed. Victory. 2 fights, 1. 1 more to go. The announcer paused. Then the gate opened, and a child stepped into the ring, no older than Alicia. Thin, pale, silent, but her eyes were ice. She's their prodigy, Evelyn said. They've trained her since she was 6. Alicia stepped forward. Oh, fighta? Evelyn grabbed her arm. No. Alicia looked into her eyes. Please, trust me. The cage door opened once more. The girl bowed. So did Alicia. They circled each other. The girl struck first fast, nearly invisible. Alicia blocked. Barely. Strike after strike. Spin, elbow, knee. Alicia stayed calm. Then she caught the girl's arm, and didn't hit. She let go. You don't have to do this, she whispered. The girl froze. Alicia removed her own belt. I'm not your enemy. The girl stared. Then she dropped her stance. The crowd gasped. The announcer shouted, disqualification. But the leader raised his hand. No, this match is won. Evelyn, Deshawn, and Alicia stood in the center of the ring. The syndicate's leader stepped forward. He removed his mask. Ito gasped. Master Hiroshi. Evelyn's eyes widened. You were supposed to be dead. I survived, he said, and built something darker than honor. She stepped closer. You can still change. He smiled sadly. Not for me, but maybe for them. He nodded toward the crowd. Many in the audience were now removing their masks. They were just like them young fighters who had been lied to. Outside, the sun began to rise. The cage was left behind, but something new had started. A movement. A return to real honor. Evelyn turned to the others. This was never just about fighting. Alicia smiled. It was about becoming who we are meant to be. But as they walked away, a figure in the shadows watched them go. He held a new letter, signed with blood. A whisper escaped his lips. If you think this was the end, you've already lost. Smoke from the early morning air still clung to Evelyn's coat as she stepped out of the warehouse. Behind her, the cage was being dismantled. It felt over, but it wasn't. Alicia walked quietly beside her, eyes puffy from exhaustion. Dish had a bruise under one eye, but he smiled like a warrior who had earned every scar. Ito was already waiting outside, holding a phone. His face was pale. What is it? Evelyn asked. Ito handed the phone to her. A video was playing, news footage. Security cameras. Their dojo burning. The dojo was on fire. Alicia gasped. No, it was them, Ito whispered. The ones who didn't want peace. The true leaders hiding behind Hiroshi, the faction he couldn't control. Evelyn clenched her fists. She had expected retaliation, but not this. Deshawn stared. At the screen, our home's gone. Evelyn looked down at Alicia and him. Not our home, she said. Our building. Our home is each other, and we're still here. But the message was clear. The war wasn't over. Someone else had taken control of the syndicate's darkest part, and they had declared open war. That same day, the letter arrived slipped under their motel room door. No return address. No name, just one phrase, in bold red ink. The Phoenix. Challenge. Final blood. 1 month. Below it was a location. The top of Mount Kuroji. A place so remote and forbidden, it hadn't been spoken of in years. Evelyn closed her eyes. I had hoped we'd never go there again. They spent the next 3 weeks rebuilding not the dojo but themselves. Evelyn trained in silence, perfecting the techniques she hadn't touched in years. Every morning she would repeat a kata from her youth under a waterfall, letting pain cleanse her doubts. Alicia grew stronger, her mind sharper, her footwork precise, but her heart, softer, more understanding. She no longer fought to prove anything. She fought to protect us. Sean focused on endurance, running up stone steps, lifting logs, sparring blindfolded with Ito. They didn't train to win. They trained to survive. One night, Alicia sat by Evelyn watching the stars. Do you think we'll make it? She asked. Evelyn paused. I don't know, but I know this. The moment we stop fighting for what's right, they win. Alicia nodded. She reached out and took her grandmother's hand. I'm not afraid anymore. Evelyn looked at her proudly. You shouldn't be, because you're not the girl they once mocked. You're the one they'll remember. The morning of the challenge arrived. They stood at the base of Mount Kuroji. The air was thin, the climb steep, but Evelyn knew the way. They reached the top by sunset. At the summit stood a stone circle, old, ancient, carved with symbols from lost martial clans, and waiting at its center was him, the real leader, tall, robed, masked. They called him the Worm. He had no name, no record, only legend. It was said he once defeated 5 masters blindfolded, and vanished. Now, he had returned. He spoke without moving his lips. So the lioness brings her cubs. Evelyn stepped forward. This ends tonight. The Worm raised a hand. You've already lost, because you came with love, and love is weakness. Evelyn's voice was steady. No, love is the only reason I survived people like you. He nodded once. Then let's see if love can bleed. The Phoenix challenge began. There would be no breaks, no substitution. 3 rounds, 1 from each side. Fight to surrender or to fall. Deshawn stepped into the circle first. The Wyern's first fighter was a man with burns across half his face. They called him Ash. He didn't speak, just attacked. Deshawn dodged, countered, but Ash was fast and brutal. He fought like fire, uncontrolled and wild. Deshawn was knocked back, bleeding from his lip. Alicia shouted, "Get up." Evelyn clenched her fists, and Deshawn did. He remembered every day he'd been ignored, laughed at, mocked. This was for the boy who was once a joke. He ducked under Ash's fist, spun, swept him off his feet, then pinned him down with his knee. Couldn't breathe. He tapped out. Round 1. Victory. But Deshawn collapsed. Evelyn caught him. You did it, she whispered. I can't feel my ribs. He groaned, smiling. Good, she said. Means you still have them. Alicia stepped in next. The Wyern's second choice was unexpected. A woman blindfolded, barefoot, holding 2 short sticks. She was fast. So fast Alicia couldn't even guess where the next strike was coming from. The woman never made a sound. She moved like shadow. She was shadow. Alicia took hit after hit. Her leg gave out. She dropped to one knee, but she smiled. I don't need to see you. The woman paused. Alicia closed her eyes and listened. The air, the breath, the step she blocked. The next strike, and landed her own, right to the chest. The woman dropped her sticks. Alicia bowed. Round 2. Victory. Only 1 round remained. The Worm stepped in himself. Evelyn faced him. It was time. He didn't wait. He came at her like a storm, precise, merciless. Every move tested her reflexes, her training, her memory. He hit her again and again. But Evelyn didn't fall. She stayed standing, until he swept her legs. She crashed onto the stones. Blood filled her mouth. The world spun. Alicia screamed to shut. Tried to rise. Ito whispered. It's her choice now. Evelyn blinked up at the sky. Then she saw them, her granddaughter, the boy she believed in, the family she rebuilt. She stood and roared. She launched herself at the Worm faster than he expected. She used his own weight, redirected his power. Hit him clean in the chest. He staggered. Then she swept his legs and pinned him. Silence. He tapped out. Final round. Evelyn wins. The circle was still. The Worm lay still, breathing heavily. He removed his mask. He was old, tired. He looked at Evelyn. You were right, he whispered. Evelyn nodded. It's time this ends, for good. They left the mountain with no cheers, no medals, just silence and peace. But the world had changed. Their story had spread. Clips of the mountain fight had leaked online. People everywhere were talking about the lioness and the cubs. and how love won where strength failed. 1 week later, a new dojo opened bigger, brighter. At the entrance hung a sign, Evelyn's Way. Inside, kids trained, girls who once feared being laughed at, boys who didn't believe in themselves, seniors who thought they were too old. Everyone had a place. Alicia taught her first class. Deshaun helped a nervous boy throw his first punch. Evelyn watched from the doorway. She whispered, "It was never about the GI or the fight. It was about proving we belong." And behind her, on the wall, hung her old GI. Framed. Burn marks and all. But in the shadows, somewhere deep in another city, a phone rang. A masked voice answered. They won the Phoenix Challenge. A pause, then laughter. Good, let them think it's over. The real test hasn't even begun. 3 months had passed since the Phoenix Challenge. The new dojo was full of life. Laughter echoed through the mats. Beginners stumbled through their first forms while black belts guided them with kindness. Alicia stood in front of her class, wearing her clean white GI tied neatly with a brown belt. Her voice was calm, clear, confident. She had become what she once dreamed of. A leader. Evelyn watched from the corner, arms folded, pride in her eyes, but a quiet unease in her chest. The war felt over, but something in her bones told her it wasn't. Late one night, Evelyn sat alone in the office, reviewing applications for new students. One form caught her attention. Name, Ren Nakata, age 17. Previous style, unknown. Reason for joining, I want to learn from the woman who made the worm kneel. There was no address, no contact number. Just a stamp at the bottom, an old symbol. She froze. That mark hadn't been used in decades. It belonged to a hidden clantha blackthorn. A group wiped out in a civil war between martial families, or so she thought. The next day, Ren arrived. He was tall, calm, sharp eyes that studied everything. He bowed deeply to Evelyn and said nothing. Alicia noticed how still he stood, like a statue or a weapon. Ren watched every class but never joined. He never smiled, never spoke out of turn, and yet, every movement he made, walking, sitting, even breathing, was perfect. Something about him felt wrong, too polished, too prepared. A week later, Ren finally stepped onto the mat. "I'd like to spar," he said softly. "With who?" Evelyn asked. He turned his head. He pointed to Alicia. Alicia stepped forward without fear. They bowed. The match began. Alicia moved quickly, striking with speed and balance. But Ren dodged every attack without moving his feet. He tilted, shifted, leaned. It was almost mocking. He didn't fight back. He just let her wear herself down. Alicia threw a high kick. He ducked. She spun for a sweep. He jumped. Then finally he struck. Just one tap, right to her chest. She fell not from pain, but shock. Everyone watched in silence. Ren bowed and walked off the mat. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. She had seen that move before, long ago, in a tournament that was never spoken about again. That night she met Ito behind the dojo. "I need you to dig," she said. "Find out who he really is." Ito nodded. "I thought you might say that. I already started." He handed her a file. Inside were surveillance photos, birth records, and a photo of a young Ren, standing beside a man in a mask, the same man who had spoken to the worm after the Phoenix Challenge. Evelyn's breath caught. "He's not here to learn," she whispered. "He's here to finish what they started." Days passed. Ren became popular among the students. They admired his discipline, but Alicia kept her distance. Deshaun noticed. "You good?" Alicia shook her head. "There's something behind his eyes. He doesn't blink like the rest of us." Deshaun smirked. "I bet he sleeps standing up." Alicia didn't laugh. "I don't think he sleeps at all." Evelyn confronted Ren after class. "You've got skill, but what do you really want?" He looked at her without fear. "To understand how you broke the worm." Evelyn tilted her head. "Why?" "Because we were told you were weak, a relic, but then you won, and now they doubt everything." "Who's they?" Ren paused. "Ones who trained me. The new order. They believe in something pure. No feelings, no distractions." Evelyn stepped closer. "Then they sent the wrong person. Because feelings are exactly why I'm still standing." Ren's jaw tightened, and he walked away. Alicia was waiting outside the office door. "You're watching him too?" Evelyn nodded. "We have to be careful." Alicia clenched her fists. "I want a rematch." Evelyn shook her head. "Not yet. He's not here to win a fight. He's here to test something." Alicia raised her eyebrows. "Like what?" Evelyn stared out the window, like whether love still matters. That weekend, Ren challenged Deshaun. It wasn't a request. He stood in the middle of the dojo during open mat and said, "I'd like to spar with the one who fought Ash." Everyone froze. Deshaun smirked. "All right, bro?" But his heart raced. They began. Ren didn't play. He moved like water, flowing around every punch. Deshaun gave it everything, his speed, his strength, his heart, but it wasn't enough. Ren caught him in a hold. Fast, brutal. Deshaun tapped. Then collapsed. He wasn't seriously hurt, but his confidence shattered. Evelyn helped him sit up. Ren walked away without a word. Alicia stood frozen at the edge of the mat. "Why does he keep doing this?" Evelyn whispered. "Because he wants us broken before the real fight begins." Alicia's eyes widened. "There's a real fight." Evelyn nodded slowly. "He's not alone. Later that night, Alicia found Ren outside the dojo. He stood by the cherry tree, staring at the moon. You know this place means something to us, she said. Ren didn't turn. I'm not here to destroy it. Could have fooled me. Turned then, slowly. I was trained to believe weakness must be removed. Emotion is weakness. Compassion is weakness. But he hesitated. But what? But I keep thinking about that day on the mountain, when he tapped out. I watched that video 1,000 times. You didn't win with power. You won with purpose. Alicia stepped closer. You're looking for something, aren't you? He met her eyes. I don't know what it is yet. That night, Ito returned to Evelyn with more intel. You were right. He's part of a new faction, the Pure Form. They believe martial arts should return to ancient roots. No mercy, no love, just form. They're planning something big. Evelyn took a deep breath. We need to be ready. The next morning, Alicia found a letter taped to her locker. It read, Final invitation, one last challenge. You, me, no mats, no rules. It was unsigned, but she knew who it was from. She walked to Evelyn's office, holding the note. He wants a real fight. Elside, Evelyn took the note. Read it. He wants to see who you really are. Should I go? Evelyn nodded slowly. Yes, but not to fight. Alicia narrowed her eyes. Then for what? Evelyn looked at her with steady love. To show him who he could be. That evening, they met at the empty lot behind the dojo. Ren stood shirtless. In the coldeyes.com, Alicia stepped forward in her gi barefoot, no words. They bowed. Then it began. He attacked first, faster than before, harder. She blocked, parried, but he was sharper, every move calculated. She struggled, fell once, twice, but she kept standing. Every time, then halfway through a furious exchange, she whispered, You don't have to be like them. Ren faltered. What? You're not your teachers. You're not your past. He struck again, You're fighting to feel. I see it in every move. He hesitated. Then she struck. Clean. He dropped to one knee, but she didn't finish it. She offered him her hand. Choose who you want to be. Ren stared at her hand. And slowly reached up. He took it. Evelyn and Ito watched from the rooftop above. Evelyn smiled. It's not always the strongest who win. Ito chuckled. It's the ones who don't give up. The next day, Ren came to class early. He bowed to Evelyn. I'd like to learn. For real this time. Evelyn smiled. Then leave everything else behind. Ren removed a small pendant from his neck, the mark of the pure form, and placed it on the desk. I'm ready. But far away, in a dark room filled with screens and mirrors, a man watched footage of the fight. Behind him stood 7 figures and CLOAKS. I spoke. He's gone soft. The man in the center turned. No. He's exactly where we want him. He pointed to the screen, where Evelyn, Alicia, and Ren trained together. The real test begins now. Miss Yara sat on the porch of the dojo, the photo in her hand for the 100th time. The edges were now soft, worn from her grip. The back still held that message. You stopped Creole, but I trained Creole. Who wrote it? The handwriting was careful, sharp, cold. It had been nearly 2 weeks since the factory was shut down, and the boys had joined the dojo. Progress was slow but real. Many of the new kids had stopped flinching at raised voices. They started bowing. Before lessons, some even smiled. A few even cried during meditation. But this photo, this message brought back the shadows. Yara thought she had already fought off long ago. She walked to her old cabinet in the office and pulled out a box marked closed. Inside, old photos, medals, and one file marked DEW, the Defense Elite Warriors. She opened it carefully. Long before, Miss Yara was known for her pink GI and gentle style. She had trained under a brutal private military program during her early 20s, something she never spoke of, and that's where she saw it again. Name. Marcus Creel. Status. Discharged and fit for moral command. Trainer assigned Kavan training. Location, Red Sector, Facility Caven. She whispered the name like a ghost from her past. He wasn't just a trainer. He was a machine builder of minds, not bodies. His belief, mercy, is a myth. He called Yara the failure, because she refused to fight dirty. Now it made sense. Kavan had trained Creole, and now he was sending a message. He was watching. She couldn't protect the kids. By waiting, she called Imani. We're going on a trip, she said. Where? Imani asked. To the mountains. Where I first learned pain and how to undo it. That evening, she gathered the oldest students, Imani, Rafi Luma, and 3 of the older boys who had once fought in Creel's underground ring. I won't force you, she said, but I'm going to find the man behind the fire, the man who made Creel. If you come, it won't be safe, but it will be right. They all stepped forward. The next morning, they packed supplies, left the dojo in the care of the younger kids, and headed for the Red Sector facility buried deep in the northern mountains. The journey was hard. Winding roads, heavy snow, silence. But the hardest part was when Miss Yara began telling her story. I wasn't always like this, she admitted. They sat by a campfire under a dark sky. She stared into the flames. I was once just like Creel, angry, fast, ruthless. I had no color in my life, no softness. Until I met a girl in a hospital. She had a pink ribbon in her hair, and a smile that melted steel. Your sister? Luma asked softly. Yara nodded. She showed me mercy, and I've been chasing it ever since. Imani whispered, "We'll protect your chase." The next day they found it. A cold gray facility mostly buried in snow, but not empty. Security cameras, a flicker of light in one window. Someone was still there. Miss Yara walked to the gate and knocked. No response. She turned to the kids. "Stay hidden." Then the gate creaked open. A voice echoed, "You brought students to meet a monster. Or are you hoping I'll make them stronger?" It was him. Caven. He was older now, but not weaker. His eyes were sharp. His arms still carried muscle memory, and his voice calm and terrifying. "You always cared too much," he said to her, "and it made you weak." "And yet," she replied, "I'm the one who ended Creel's empire." He smirked. "And I'll rebuild it. You think taking in broken children will fix the world? No. You train them soft, I train them real. They are not weapons," she said. "They're hearts." He stepped aside. "Then show me. Face me. One last test." Miss Yara stepped forward, but before she could respond, Imani came out from behind a tree. "No," she said. "You want proof? Your method fails. Fight me." Miss Yara's eyes widened. "Imani, no," but Kavan laughed. "Interesting. I was one of the kids who mocked Miss Yara," Imani said. "I hit people before I spoke to them, but she changed me. Let me show you what your fear-based training cannot do," Kavan considered. "Fine, 1 minute. If you impress me, I'll burn everything. If not, she fights me." The clock started. Imani closed her eyes. She remembered every lesson Yara gave her. She let the silence speak. She didn't attack. She waited. She moved like water. Kavan swung, fast testing her. She blocked. He tried again harder. She dodged, and then one swift, elegant motion. She didn't punch. She placed her palm gently on his chest and stepped back. "Your time's up," she said. "I don't need to defeat you. I just needed to not become you." Kavan stood frozen. Something changed in his face. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then he walked back into the facility. "Take it all," he muttered. "Burn it if you want. I'm done." The team entered the building. Room after room of combat simulations. Old videos of violent drills. Files on broken kids. Miss Yara took a breath. No more secrets. They destroyed the drives. Burned the paper files. Left only an empty shell behind. As they walked back toward the trail, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Rafi whispered, "We ended a nightmare." Miss Yara smiled. "No, we passed it. Now we start dreaming again." But just before they reached, the Kremanis stopped. "Wait," she said. Something was buried in the snow, half frozen, a small metal device. Still blinking. Miss Yara picked it up. A tracker. It had a fresh signal. Someone had planted it on their car, which meant someone else was watching, and they weren't done. Weeks passed. Peace returned to the dojo. Ren had become a quiet but respected part of the group. He trained humbly, followed instructions, helped the younger students. Even Deshawn forgave him. "Man, you still move like a snake," he laughed, rubbing his shoulder. "But at least now you don't bite." Ren smiled faintly. "I'm trying." Evelyn watched from her office window. She'd seen many students grow, but few as fast or as deeply as Ren. Yet something in her heart still whispered, "This isn't over." One morning, a letter arrived by post. No name, no return address, just a wax seal with a thorn pressed into blood-red wax. Evelyn opened it slowly. The letter read, "You broke the worm. You turned the boy, but the roots are deeper than you think. The garden will open. Prepare your final flower." There was no signature, but Evelyn knew exactly what it meant. That night, she gathered Alicia, Ren, Deshawn, and Ito in the old storage room. She lit a single candle. "This dojo is built on land that once belonged to a clan called the Silent Root," she began. "They trained warriors, not just fighters, but men and women raised for one purpose: to protect something or destroy it." Alicia frowned. "Protect what?" Evelyn stared into the flame. "A secret art, one that blends body, mind, and spirit. It's what Ash was chasing, what the worm lost, and now someone wants it unlocked." Ren stepped forward. "It's the garden. That's what they call their hidden base. The pure form is gathering the last pieces of the root's teachings. They need you." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Because I was the last seed they couldn't uproot." Ito pulled out a scroll from his backpack. "I found this in an old temple 2 towns over. It mentions the garden. It's not just a place. It's a test. Only those who enter without fear can survive. And only those who survive can unlock the final form." Deshawn raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like some movie-level stuff." Alicia stared at the scroll. "So they want Evelyn to go there?" Evelyn shook her head. "No, they want you all to bring me there." The next morning, the team packed their bags. Alicia, Ren, Deshawn, and Evelyn. Ito stayed behind to keep the dojo safe. They boarded a train that wound through mountains, into forests untouched by cities. The map Ren had drawn from memory led them deeper and deeper, until they reached an ancient gate carved into stone. Above it, a faded phrase in Old Japanese, "Only the broken may bloom." They stepped through. Inside, silence. Not just quiet, but complete silence. No birds, no wind, only their footsteps on moss-covered stone. Then, a voice, not spoken aloud but in their minds. "Who seeks the garden?" Evelyn answered, calm and steady. I am Evelyn Ray, last student of Haru, breaker of the worm, teacher of the tossed. There was a pause then. You may enter. The garden was no paradise. It was a maze of stone, fog, and mirrors. Each of them faced illusions or reflections of their worst fears. Deshaun saw himself failing the dojo, letting everyone down. Alicia saw her younger self crying alone after her first tournament loss. Ren saw a younger boy beaten in training, told again and again, feelings make you weak. And Evelyn, she saw her daughter, smiling, then turning her back and walking away, into shadow. They pushed through. One trial at a time. Every time someone fell, the others lifted them, until they reached the final gate. Their 7 figures in black stood waiting, their faces hidden. The middle one stepped forward. You were warned. Evelyn stepped out, and you ignored me. The figure laughed. Still sharp, right? Then he pulled back his hood. It was Ash. Alive. Alicia gasped. But he tapped out on the mountain. Ash chuckled. I tapped to test you, to draw them out. And it worked. He looked at Ren. You were the final bait. And you led them right to us. Ren stepped forward. Double quotes. No, I walked here on my own. I left you. Ash's eyes darkened. No one leaves the route. You're either buried, or you bloom. The other cloaked figures stepped out. Each one took a stance, mirror images of famous martial arts forms, but corrupted, stripped of honor, full of power. Ash raised a hand. Final test. You win, you walk free. You lose, we bury your name. Evelyn stepped forward, but Alicia held her back. No, this is our fight now. The battle began. Deshaun versus a giant brute who moved like a shadow. Alicia against a girl who mirrored her every move. Exactly. Ren versus 2 opponents at once. And Evelyn watched. Every punch, every stumble, her heart in her throat. But they held. They remembered the mountain. They remembered the fall. They remembered each other. Alicia was the first to fall, but not for long. She used her defeat to draw her double into a trap, then flipped her hard onto the stones. Deshaun let himself get pushed, then used his back against the wall for momentum. Ren, bleeding from his lip, grinned for the first time. This is what real fighting feels like. Ash watched, expression unreadable. Finally, only Ash remained. He stepped onto the stones. Facing Ren, you were meant to be our future. Ren lowered his hands. No, I am the future, but not yours. Ash lunged. Fast, brutal, but this time Ren didn't dodge. He caught Ash's arm. Spun, locked. And grabbed him. Silence. Ash didn't get up. He looked at the sky. I see it now. He closed his eyes. I never needed to win. I just needed to feel again. Then he whispered something Evelyn couldn't hear, and went still. The cloaked figures bowed. Their heads. One stepped forward. You've passed. He handed Evelyn a scroll. This is the final form. Keep it, or destroy it. Evelyn took it, and nodded. They walked out of the garden as the sun rose. Alicia looked at Ren. You okay? He smiled. I think I finally am. Back at the dojo, Ito ran out to greet them. You're alive. Deshaun hugged him so hard he nearly fell over. Evelyn placed the scroll on her desk, unopened. I don't need it, she said. Alicia nodded. We already found what we needed. Ren looked at the students warming up on the mat. Family, but just as peace seemed to settle, a news alert flashed on Ito's laptop. A new tournament. Global. Unregulated. Hosted by a mysterious organization known only as the Iron Root. Evelyn stood still. They're not done. Alicia cracked her knuckles. Neither are we.